This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, it's another great day at AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. And with me, once again, is one of my very favorite people, Joel Friedlander. Many of you know him as the book designer. And he's also one of the smartest, savviest, intuitive people I know on how to monetize, how to grab on to what some people think is a rinky-dinky fad and really identify it as this is the trend of what publishing is going. One of the things that Joel did that was so ahead of the mark years ago was the art of blogging and how critical it is to pound in, and I'm meaning pound in your expertise and really round it out and grow your followers, your fans, and really become a spot in the market. So we're going to talk about blogging today, how you can take what you currently have, transition it, and morph it into something you hadn't imagined. And for those of you who are still kind of gazing at your belly button, wondering, do I blog or not? First of all, Joel and I are going to tell you, freaking yes. So with that, Joel, welcome back to AuthorU.
Well, thanks for having me, Judith. It's really great to be back.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, all of you, Joel will be at the AuthorU extravaganza here in a couple of weeks. So you want to get your tush there if you haven't already registered and take advantage of amazing 3 days. Denver in September is awesome. Awesome. It doesn't snow, I can tell you. And we can feel autumn coming here, Joel. Boy, can we feel it.
Oh, yeah? Tell me.
Yep. You can just, the air is there. We can see the leaves, actually a hint of yellowing golden coming in. It's actually
already, wow.
Yeah, we're a little shocked.
Well, I'm pumped. I can't wait to get there in September. It was quite a bit earlier in the year, the last time I was there.
It was May, and last May we had a foot of snow on the day it opened, if you can believe. Anyway,
wow.
So it's, September, it's a transition. We'll probably, it's going to be a little lighter this year, and then I think it'll be taking off next year when everyone gets used to the new time frame that we're doing things. But here we go.
And hey, Judith, one of the things I'm going to be talking about at AuthorU in September in Denver is blogging. And I'm going to be talking in that session, and I've completely revamped this, one of my most popular presentations, and I've completely redone it to bring it up to date. But, what's important about that presentation is it's all about getting traffic to your blog. And this is, the existential problem for bloggers, because if you don't have any readers, I guarantee you're not going to make any impact at all.
Well, and here's the other problem, because as you know, Joel, it does take a little time to build them. It's not going to happen overnight usually. And that's the problem. I think their expectations is it will happen overnight. They're going to have, I put my first blog up, I'm going to have 1,000 followers tomorrow. So there's
right. Yeah. I mean, that's unfortunate. I posted my article, but I don't have any comments yet. What am I doing wrong? And it's it goes back to something, Judith, that you and I have talked about extensively. It's kind of an extension of this whole idea that going from being a writer to being an author, someone who wants to make an impact in society or sell a lot of books or convince people of what you want to do, whatever it is, you need people. You can't do that with just the 11 people you know. That's not going to be enough. So, and we talk about this, can how can authors make the transition into understanding that there's a certain amount of business behind the publishing industry? That when you become a publisher, even if you're just publishing your own books, you're now kind of a business person, and that's somebody who has to identify a market and then provide things that market wants.
Which makes it very exciting. I mean, I think it makes it
I think so.
Yeah. So that's what we want to push everyone to go towards this and show them kind of we can do baby steps. And then let's do the explosive steps, especially for the people who, okay, so what can I've been blogging and I've been doing this. And so what would first advice, Joel, would be, okay, so I'm a newbie. What should I be doing before I make mistakes? And then maybe we should look at, okay, I've been doing this and maybe I've been making some boo-boos. What should I unscramble and then go forward with? How's that sound?
Sure. I mean, infrastructure, basics, basic operations, that's very important that people have a pretty good understanding. And, you don't have to understand every single part of this process to get started. It's really important to actually start blogging, because by doing it, you're going to learn a huge amount. There's no substitute for that kind of on-the-job training. But you do want to make sure you're following best practices. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like one question I get a lot, Judith, and I bet you do too, is the whole question of where should I put my blog? Should I go over to WordPress.com and get a free blog? Hey, that sounds pretty good. Everybody says I should be using WordPress, including Joel and Judith. They're both going to tell me to use WordPress. So what's the matter with that? And it's free. And I could set up a blog in 5 minutes, and I could be blogging this afternoon, and I'm going to have all those readers rushing in, and you got to put the brakes on right there, because the first decision you make about where you're going to locate this blog, because the blog is an online asset, that's an important consideration. And my advice is to go the other way. If you go to WordPress.com or you go to Blogger, Blogspot, you go to any of those free blogging platforms, yes, they are going to give you something for free. It's going to be fast and easy to set up. But the downside of that is you have very little control over your site, and you have no control over the practices that are allowed on that platform. So WordPress.com and all of these platforms have terms of service that you have to obey. Otherwise, they're going to take your toys away. And I mean, take them away. And our friend Joan Stewart tells a story often about she started on Blogger, and one day her entire site was gone because she violated some kind of term of service. Now, luckily, Joan had her stuff backed up, so she just moved and kept going. But I would hate to see that happen to anybody, including me. So I think it's a better idea to get your own hosting account. That becomes yours. You own it, your business, or you own it, and then put your WordPress blog on that self-hosted account. And how do you do that? That's pretty fast and easy to do. You could do this in under 15 or 20 minutes. And I would recommend that anybody at that stage go over to Michael Hyatt's blog, which is at michaelhyatt.com, and watch his, he's got a video that he made showing how you set up a WordPress blog step by step, and it doesn't take more than 15 minutes. So at that point, you now have you own the property that you're blogging on. If you go on somebody else's property, you're kind of like what we call a digital sharecropper. You're doing all the work, but somebody else owns the land. We don't like that. We want you to own your own property. It doesn't cost very much. I think right now you can get a hosting account for about $5 or $6 a month, and it costs about $10 to register your domain name, and that's the name that your blog will appear under when people go search for it. So it's not very expensive, and I would say that's the very first thing that people should know. Judith, what do you think?
I think so too. So you're saying go use WordPress, but make sure you own it. Is that the clarifying there?
Exactly. And what you're going to find is if you go to one of the popular web hosting companies, I started off on Bluehost. which is at bluehost.com.
Right.
Very reputable, large supplier of hosting services, and they are recommended by WordPress as a great host for WordPress blogs. So if you get a hosting account there, what you find after you open your hosting account, there's a button that says Install WordPress. You click the button, and the software is installed on your blog in about 10 seconds. You now have a WordPress blog that you own, and that nobody can take away from you. You set up the terms of service, and you can go ahead with confidence that that's an asset of your business now.
So, Joel, for example, I'm going to use me for example. I used to use Bluehost, and we had so many hacking, it was cuckoo for me, that we switched over to WP Engine, which we've had far less violations on. In fact, we've had none. But so my blog rests on they manage my website. That's where it's resting. And then the blog comes in on that. Is that what you're talking about, or is this another different step?
Absolutely. This is you're using as a web host, or what we call
Yes.
an internet service provider for that
Yep.
site, is WP Engine, a site I also use. I use both Bluehost and WP Engine, and depending on your needs, when you're first getting started, you may not need quite that robust hosting, but they're both
Right.
great companies. I use them both, so you can check them both out, see what the pricing looks like. Now, you can also, on Bluehost, you can also harden your sites in various ways. So I'm not going to get into that because it's kind of technical, but, there is a lot of hacking. If your site becomes popular, you will get hacked. I'm sorry to tell you that, but it's basically the way it works.
So it's
the
good news and the bad news.
Site.
Good news is people love you. The bad news is they love you too much.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to take that into account. Talk to your hosting provider if you have problems, or I also keep the phone number of a WordPress technician on my phone, and I have a relationship with several people like that. And if I need help, I call them up and they help me out. And it really, that part of blogging does not occupy even 1% of your time. So I wouldn't pay a lot of attention to it. I'm just saying that you want to avoid the hosting platforms and get your own site. Now, when you do that, you're going to have to get a domain name. Like the domain name I picked for my blog is thebookdesigner.com. So when you go to register that, you have to look it up to see if it's available. Like if you went today to see if thebookdesigner.com is available, it would say, no, it's not available. That's because I own it. So you have to find something unique that really does express something about, the topic that you're writing about. That's the best advice. Now, if you're a fiction author, you're probably better off with a domain name that's your name. Because you're going to hope to gather a large readership, and those people primarily are going to be searching on your name when they're looking for your new books, or somebody just told them about you, to get information about you and what books you publish, where they can be found, and other juicy background stuff that you want to reveal maybe to increase the engagement of your readers. So I do like the domain name of your name. That could be very problematic for people named like John Smith, because that johnsmith.com, I'm going to bet that's already gone.
Yeah, think?
Bill, yeah. And I run into that all the time. So then you got to get creative. You could have John Smith author, come up with something that's going to be unique and that you could register. Now, if you're a nonfiction author, you definitely want a domain name that includes at least one keyword relevant to your topic. Like my topic is book design, so I got book and design and book design into my domain name. That's pretty cool, because if you think about it, every time somebody wants to link to my blog forever, they have to put their anchor is going to include the words book design and book design. That's really good for me, because every time somebody links to me with those terms, it kind of adds a little tiny bit of juice to my site for search engines looking for answers on book design. So they're going to learn that here's this guy with this site over there, and a lot of people are linking to him saying he is involved in book design. That's a good thing. And in fact, that among many other things I've done over the years has helped me build a huge amount of search traffic to my blog, where by letting the search engines know that I'm a good resource to get honest, authoritative, up-to-date, and expert opinions on the subject of book design.
All right. So what you're saying is that you have your domain, which is, well, yours is on thebookdesigner.com. Your blog lands on that, and which I'm delighted to be a participant monthly and providing a blog for you. And
absolutely.
Then you have you have another domain with the name of the blog itself.
No, the blog, my blog, the blog name can be anything you want it to be. But I'm looking at the domain name of the site, the actual URL that you put into your browser to get there. So if you have to type thebookdesigner.com. Now, if anybody wants to link to any article on my site, every article on my site,
it's all over there.
The URL starts with thebookdesigner.com, and then it goes / whatever.
Got it. All right, let's take a quick break, Joe. Let's take a quick mini break here, and we'll come back and continue with this. This is AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. With me today is Joel Friedlander, and we are talking in-depth blog power. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Is there a book in you or another? AuthorU will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join AuthorU today through its website at AuthorU.org. Follow AuthorU on Twitter at AuthorU and on Facebook at AuthorU, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. AuthorU, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
Every picture tells a story, and it's a truism that people do judge a book by its cover. Nick Sellinger and NZ Graphics have been in the business of producing superior graphic cover design and interior layout for self-published authors, independent and traditional publishers for years. He has developed a reputation for excellent work, fast turnarounds, and best of all, affordable pricing. NZ Graphics also produces ebooks and book marketing materials such as posters, sell sheets, postcards, bookmarks, business cards, logos, and more. Books designed for his clients have won multiple book awards, including Best Book Award by U.S. Book News, multiple Evie Awards from the Colorado Independent Publishers Association, Indie Book Awards, the San Francisco Book Festival Award, and Freedom Medal Award from Valley Forge. Visit www.nzgraphics.com or call 303-985-4174 for more details about making your book the success it should be. Mention that you are an FOJ, friend of Judith's, and that you heard about NZ Graphics on your guide to book publishing.
One of the most important decisions you will ever make is your choice for printing your book. You are choosing a company which will be responsible for guiding you through the process and printing your book at a level of quality and detail that embraces your personal and creative needs. You want to choose a company that when your book finally arrives, you are delighted and ready to move on to the next level, and one that is customer focused. Choose King Printing Company and Addy Books to be that company that brings you to the next level. Go to kingprinting.com or call 978-458-2345 and ask for Tom Campbell.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, we're back. We're all in the middle of blogging. The infrastructure is in place. That I hope you have it really clear that this is not, you want to make sure that you're in the right place. So we all say WordPress, but it's got to be the right way you structure your WordPress. And as Joel said, michaelhyatt.com has a great tutorial on how to set up your blog if you want to just whip over to his website and take a look at that. Okay, Joel, so what's kind of next as we go on? We've picked our name. We're ready to go. We've got some in the kitty.
We've installed our blog, and one of the fun things you can do after you get the WordPress software on there is to see what kind of theme you like. Now, the themes are add-on pieces of software that work with WordPress, and what they do is they change the way your blog looks. And they may add different kinds of functions as well that weren't there originally. Now, you could start with the plain WordPress blog right out of the box, but look around at the different themes, and you can find them either by Googling WordPress themes, but the best and safest way to do it is from inside your WordPress blog, where on the menu option Appearance, you can find themes. You can search for themes, and WordPress will install a couple automatically, and there's a lot of them. And if you stay inside there and search for themes in there, you're more guaranteed that you're going to get a good piece of software. Now, that's exactly what I did, Judith. I found a theme I liked. I installed it on my WordPress site. It takes one click, basically, no kidding. And then the next thing I did, I customized it, and all I did to customize it was I made up a little JPEG graphic that said the book designer, and it had my tagline in it. And then I just uploaded that so the header on the blog had it was customized. That was the only customized thing I did, but at least it didn't look like everybody else's, and that was all I was aiming for. Because to be honest with you, Jude, I had no idea if this whole blogging thing was going to work. And I was unwilling to put a lot of money into it or effort until I found out whether it was going to work for me. So I spent 6 months blogging on that kind of generic-looking, out-of-the-box blog site with my silly custom header in it that I spent about 10 minutes doing. And that was fine. I wanted to prove it first before I spent any money. And so that's what I did. So you can mess around with a theme and then customize it by customizing the header. Usually that's a very simple operation, and it won't take you long. And then you're ready to get started. So should you invite people over to see your new blog now? No. You have nothing to read. You have to have something there. So my next step for new bloggers, particularly nonfiction authors, is to sit down and create a set of foundation articles. Okay, these are foundation posts. Okay, Joel, what the heck are you talking about? What's a foundation post? These are going to be the pillars. Some people call it pillar content because it's really going to form the foundation structure of your blog for maybe a very long time. So you want to think about it carefully. The first thing you want to do is set up your categories. Categories are really important because they help you to organize the stuff you're going to post on your blog. And my best advice is if you're an author and you were going to write a book on this subject, write the table of contents, and maybe you'll have 10 or 12 chapters. Okay, those are your categories, and that's going to last you for a long time. You may need to add some later, but that is the basis of how you set up the categories on your WordPress blog. Then you want to start creating pillar content. Now, think about what you're an expert at, because partly what we're doing here is making our expertise apparent to our readers. You have to publish in order to do that. You have to show that you really know whatever it is you're writing about. So, and that's been my experience. So I started writing articles about the basics of book design. I started writing articles about my background in book design, and just very foundational things, glossaries. What do these words mean that I'm going to be using in the articles I will be writing? What are the different kinds of printing there are, for instance? That's a very basic foundational thing. If you don't understand the difference between digital printing and, let's say, offset printing, and that there are different ways to get your book printed, that's a foundational thing that you have to know. Now, one of the reasons we do this is because this foundational content, if you think about it, is going to contain all of the key words and phrases that we're going to be writing about from now on, many of them. Not only that, we're establishing a set of articles to which we're going to be linking back over the years. So, for instance, when I write an article today in 2016, and I want to explain, make a remark about book distribution, which is a very foundational idea in book publishing, I always link back to my articles that I wrote in 2010 on how book distribution works. That's a foundation or pillar article. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you see, my blog is still built on those articles I wrote way back in 2009, 2010, when I was doing what we're talking about right now. So that would be my next step, Judith.
And then, what the foundation articles is that it gives you the opportunity, because they're the core, to go back and revisit those, because they do need to be updated. I mean, they're revisions. As distribution has, for example, has changed dramatically in the last 10 years for books today.
Absolutely. And that's, and it's great to update old articles because it makes them new again, and you could actually republish them if you like.
I do.
And there are some tricky ways to do that, because you have to redirect the old article to the new article, but it's not really that hard. So,
and there's sometimes that you want it to supersede it, and you decide on that. But I know I just redid a whole revamping on predators here in the last week, actually on one of my blogs, and went through and revisited the red flags again and some recurrent things. And that usually is triggered by a call or a panic email I get from someone who has been duped once again. I think, oh my God, why don't you people do your homework? I go through that.
Oh, yeah. Well, Judith, you and I are basically in the same business, and that is educating authors. So that's the lament of the educator. I told you about that. Didn't you listen?
Yeah. Or didn't you do your Google search and find something here?
Yeah. So the idea is that you're setting up something that's going to actually be welcoming to visitors. I mean, you're going to have stuff for them to read. You're going to create an About Me page that isn't about you, and we could talk about that if you like, because, I mean, if you think about it, setting up a blog, we're going to try to demonstrate our expertise. We're going to try to build authority. The bloggers who succeed seem to be the ones who can establish their authority and also their trustworthiness and also their likability. So authority, trust, likability. If you think about it, that's probably what makes you want to go back to somebody's site that you enjoy reading. It's informative. They treat their readers well. They don't, use mystifying language or stuff that the average person wouldn't understand. They reach out to you. So that's your model for creating your blog, is to create an inviting site where people who don't know as much as you won't feel intimidated by their lack of knowledge. You'll feel encouraged because you're inspiring them and telling them that they can do it too. And you're going to show them how.
Now,
So
Joel, I would love to have your feedback on, because I mean, I've seen Michael Hyatt go back and forth. I've seen Jane Friedman go back and forth on, how much do you show of your blog? I mean, sometimes my latest blog to you is a long blog. And that, how much do you show of the material before you cut it off to read more? Is there a formula for that? Or do you just lay out the whole sucker?
The infamous more tag. Okay, so in WordPress, we're able to drop in a little, what's called the more tag. Well, really, you just put your cursor in there and you hit a button that says more, and that's it. And what that does for people who aren't familiar with writing WordPress blogs is that will stop the article and put in a little slug that says continue reading or click here to read the rest of the article or whatever you want it to say. That's what you're referring to, right, Judith?
That is absolutely, yeah.
All right, so where do you put the more tag? All right, well, a lot of people like the more tag because if you think about it, anybody reading your article is now going to hit 2 pages instead of 1. If that's an important metric to you, how many pages have been read on your blog this week, you could double it instantly by just sticking that more tag in there, can't you? Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't really care about that metric, and I don't know why you would, unless you're having, bragging contests with your buddies, then I would decide article by article. For instance, the front of my blog is really a digest. It isn't where you go to read a whole article. And that's something that you have to understand. In WordPress, we have a separate display for the home page, okay? And then there's a completely separate display for the single post display. So if I click the title of an article, then it's going to open up the single post. It's only going to show me that article in its entirety on the screen all at once.
That's
but
correct.
On my home page, I got a lot of stuff going on. I've got today's article. I've got the last 5 articles before that. I've got other stuff going on, invitations to log in. So I want to keep it on my site. I want to keep it short. Okay, so I don't drive all the rest of that content way
So you
down
want the read more.
Somewhere.
So the read more goes in to take them in, so then it's the full enchilada and it's got the
and
full
I usually
attention.
put that on a long post. I'll put it about a third of the way through and I always pick a spot intentionally where I think that's going to entice people to want to click that to keep reading. Like if I say somewhere in the article, now let's look at the 3 ways you might fail, I might put the more tag right after that sentence because, when people read that, they want to find out 3 ways. There's this unsatisfaction, otherwise known as a cliffhanger. So that's where I put it. On a shorter article, I'll just put it somewhere around halfway. And if I have a really short article or something that I think is impactful, I might just post the whole thing. But 90% of the time, I'm using the more tag to keep that article on the front page short enough so that my other content also shows.
Great, perfect. Okay, so let's take another quick break, and then because my question I'm going to open up with. All right, so how do you keep the comments? Let's talk about, if it's appropriate at this time, generating the comments and showing that and how to do that. We're going to take another quick break. It's Joel Friedlander and blogging, and I'm Judith Briles. You're listening to AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on your guide to book publishing with Judith Briles, we will provide you a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
Want to publish like a pro today? Well, then take a look at Ingram Spark, the only publishing platform that offers print and ebook services through a single source. Upload, edit, and manage titles all in one place. Take more control of printing costs with print on demand, and reach even more readers through one of the world's most extensive distribution networks. Built by independent publishers for independent publishers, Ingram Spark has everything you need to maximize your book's potential: color printing, ebook distribution, print on demand, global reach, and more. Start publishing with Ingram Spark today and see just how far your titles will go tomorrow. That's ingramspark.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, so we've got the blog set up. The infrastructure is kind of in place. And I'm hoping some of you oldies are picking up some tips here, because I sure do every time I interact with Joel, or just anything. I mean, I'm always looking for what nugget, what aha I can take away for a variety of things. So with that, we're into, I asked the question of when do you use the read more, the more button, and insert it in. And Joel's given it a couple of tips on that. And then I kind of teased with the question, what about comments as we go along? So Joel, what about comments?
Oh, man, comments. This is difficult terrain for many bloggers, because a lot of bloggers psychologically, they're so hooked into the blog. They live and die by the comments. It's not uncommon for me to get mail from authors saying, I need your help. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm posting these articles. I'm not getting any comments. So you need readers, obviously, to get comments. So I don't think there's a lot about comments outside of traffic, because let's say 10 people read your article. Well, if about only 1 in 20 people comment, it's likely you're not going to get any. It's just kind of a crapshoot at that point. If 1 out of 20 people comment and you have 200 people reading, you're going to get a couple of comments. If you get 2,000 people reading it, you're going to be busy answering comments, and you're going to feel satisfied and fulfilled. So traffic is number one on comments. Number two is actually asking for comments. And many bloggers haven't thought of this for some reason. But if you write an article squarely aimed at your target market that's instructional or inspirational, at the end of the article you could say, well, that's my story. What happened to you? Have you tried this? Let me know in the comments. Or you could say, now that was a pretty complicated discussion. I hope I answered all the questions, but if you have any questions I didn't answer, please leave them in the comments. And you put that at the end. That's where people are. That's the most appropriate place for them to make a comment. And now you ask them to do it, point blank. So you could even say, I need feedback on this. I would really appreciate it if you would leave me some feedback in the comments. So that is called a call to action. Okay, you've been writing an article that's discursive. It's just maybe informative, or it's a step-by-step on how to put a header up on Facebook. I don't know, whatever you write about. Now, at the end, we've switched, and we've become imperative. We ask people or tell them to leave something in the comments. So that's number two. If you don't include a call to action at the end of your post, don't be surprised if nobody takes an action. Number three is the articles you're writing. And I think Judith is going to relate to this because she's the expert on this topic. But if you're writing boring articles, you're not going to get many comments. You have to, it has to wake people up. Now, one of the best ways to do that, and if you really want to get comments, if you're serious about that, I'm going to recommend that you sit down and think of some very controversial issues in your area, your topic, or whatever you're writing in, and start writing articles where you either go into the controversy or you take a stand on one side or the other. Another thing you can do is disagree with somebody who's very prominent in your field. Now, a lot of people, that's kind of scary to them, but these kind of articles will get comments if comments is what you want. So controversy, taking a strong opinion, disagreeing with somebody else, those are all things that will stimulate people to want to write and either tell you, wow, how right you are, or they're going to come on and tell you how wrong you are. So,
that could be one of your call to actions.
A really great way to demonstrate your expertise. Sorry, Jude.
And no, don't be sorry. I interrupted you. That could be one of the call to actions. I mean, you could do your wrap up with this with your call to action, and just really ask your readers, "Hey, am I off base here? Do you agree or disagree, or do you have any add-ons to what I'm thinking or exploring or feeling or experiencing or something?" And it's amazing what they will jump in.
Absolutely,
and they will tell you if you're out to lunch.
It really works, and yes, you can learn a lot from your readers. Here's one of the rules of blogging. You have no idea who's reading your blog. I guarantee it. Unless people walk up to you in an event and say, "Wow, I just read that article you wrote, and it was great," or "You were off base," you really don't know. And it can be very surprising when you find out the people who are reading your blog. I know I've had that. And I've done all these things, talking about controversial subjects, asking people for their opinion, taking a stand, and this will generate comments. But the call to action itself is your best friend. For instance, I wrote an article 5 years ago, about a good place to find free photos to use on your blog or in your book. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I had a few places. That's what I knew. So I wrote it up, and then I asked people, "Hey, if you know someplace else, could you please leave it in the comments?" Well, Judith, my God, I got so many links and great places, and now whenever I send people that article, I say, "Don't forget to read the comments," because a lot of the content is in the comments. And my readers knew many places I didn't know.
Yeah, which is always great fun. Joel, I remember when I wrote an article for You about the Princess Author. Do you remember that blog I did?
Yeah.
That created
Absolutely.
all kinds of comments. And, some really absolutely right on agree. One woman took a horrible offense that I was being sexist. And,
absolutely. Because it was a princess.
Yeah, I know, right. Well, no, who calls the prince author? I mean, Prince is going to come in and kiss me and take me away, right? Princess is, I need my nails done. Okay, so it was fascinating, the feedback. You just keep plugging away.
That's the name of the game. Now, another thing to do is to invite controversial guests onto your blog and interview them or have them write an article about, you don't have to sign up for everything they're saying, but let's say in fairness, if you're representing a certain field or branch of study to your readers, why not bring in some authors? Maybe you have slightly different opinions. You can absorb that. It'll just really add to your own authority in your field that you are hosting these people. Not only that, interviews on blogs, this is a little bit of a sidebar, but interviews, a blog is a media site. And when you start blogging, you are actually now part of the media, a little tiny infinitesimal piece, but still your blog is a media site. You can break news on your blog. That's really good for getting comments. You can do interviews with famous, informative, inspiring, or controversial people. And one of the things that you'll gain from doing interviews is you'll get to know those people. You'll establish a personal relationship with somebody when you interview them. And then that could be very beneficial to you farther down the road when your books start coming out.
Mm-hmm. And which is, you may have a book, you might want a little push, you can reach out to them and ask. You've already got that going, which I think we all do with each other. And I always pick up little gems, as I said earlier, which I love, that kind of thing. And then let me ask you this, on a hosting, having someone do, whether you're interviewing them, and you blatantly disagree. Really blatantly think they're out to lunch or they're out to screw other authors or fill in the blank. That at what point do you interject that, Joel? What point do you let your opinion come out?
I've never interviewed somebody who I thought was a rip-off artist because I don't want to give them the attention on my site.
Well, see,
I've got thousands of readers.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put them in front of my readers. Now, on the other hand, I interviewed Guy Kawasaki when he published his book, Ape, and Judith, as we remember, you had about at AuthorU, and he was giving away books like popcorn, and I love that because Guy is really the master of the book launch. There's no denying that. Anyway, I interviewed him on my blog, and I disagreed with many things that were in his book. I raised some of those points during the interview to get his response because, it's okay to disagree. Come on. There's nothing bad about disagreeing with people if you have some rational viewpoint. Now, here's what I did, Judith. After the interview was over and I still had Guy on the line, I said, I want to send you a document, a letter, an email with some of the errors I found in your book. I didn't do this on the air. I did it after the interview was over. And so he was intrigued because anybody would be. He put a lot of work and time and effort into APE, which stands for Author, Publisher, Entrepreneur. So we talked about some of the things that I thought were missing from his book. And you know what happened in the end, Judith? He turned around and asked me to write the section that was missing in the book, which I did. I wrote that section, and it's now included in the ebook version. If you download the APE ebook, you'll find my article in there about printing books by offset and why that's really important for self-publishers to know.
Yeah, here's the other thing. I know Guy well. That Guy didn't write most of that book in the first place. Sean did. And so when you have the person who, this is often in collaborative ventures, that they understand it, they get the scope of it, but they don't know the nitty-gritty because they haven't experienced that nitty-gritty of actually implementing it. So therefore, it's not in their realm. And so what you did is you brought that together. So he got that. And actually, with Guy, who's been publishing with New York for a gazillion years, he should know about offset printing.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But here, what interested me about the omissions in the book, because there was another big topic that was omitted, which a friend of mine ended up writing a section for that was added to the book, and that was Alan Rinsler, who wrote a whole section on developmental editing because they had just kind of skipped that step.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason that these omissions happened, Judith, is because of a much larger subject in the indie publishing world. I don't blame Guy or Sean or anybody else, but the fact of the matter is they were focused on a very small subset of self-publishing authors. And that's all they were considering, because that's all Sean's experience, I believe, really, that was the experience he had. Now, I get that, and a lot of people are publishing exactly that way. But, like what happens, Judith, you're in a small pond, but somehow you think that's the whole ocean. You don't, it never occurs to you. So there were many kinds of books that self-publishers can publish that are never talked about or hardly ever talked about in these kind of environments, like the book Ape. So they were looking at ebooks and print-on-demand paperbacks, and that was the entire world of book publishing for indie authors as far as they knew.
Right, and as you and I both know, that's really not the major portion of it. It's part of it. No. It's part of the sea, but it's not the major portion. All right. We're going to take one final break with Joel Friedlander, and we'll be right back with far more on how you can embrace your blogging power and soar it. It's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems, you want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right. So we've got it together. Joel and I, because we know each other well, it's easy for us to digress at times. But we're on target here. It's really blogging power on how you can really soar. So it's the infrastructure. That core needs to be in place. Think about creating that tagline, which I think is really important for you all to have, to be able to say in 10 seconds or less what you are about. And what your business is about, if that's what we're doing, or what the book is about, but have that tag in place, do a little customization and put it together, and then create that pillar content, that core content that is what your blog is about. So people can always come back to that, and you can keep building on it and then revisit it and morph it and bring it up current at any one time. And, sometimes, look, Joel writes a lot and I write a lot, and sometimes we get pooped. So sometimes going back to some of our old stuff, think, oh God, this was good, works, and you can go back and revisit. And also the idea of disagreeing or find something controversial and then use that as a leapfrog is always powerful. So those are some of the things that we've covered in this last 40 minutes or so as we've gone along.
Yep.
All right.
And another one that's really a favorite of mine, and also Joan Stewart, our publicity expert friend, is what we call newsjacking.
Oh, yeah.
So,
love
for instance,
newsjacking.
A few weeks ago, I wrote a post, and the headline was Brexit, Twilight of the Experts, with a question mark.
Oh, I loved that.
I got a ton of attention on that post because I published it the day after the Brexit vote. And, I did it years ago. What can independent authors learn from Downton Abbey? I published that when there was just a frenzy about Downton Abbey going on. And, it got a lot of attention. So you could do that. I want to talk a little bit before we wrap up here, Judith. I got 3 things that I think are important for this stage of your blogging journey, because we've really been talking about steps, the first step, setting up your blog, all that stuff. Now, Judith mentioned a tagline, and I just want to say one thing about that. I spent hours working on the tagline for my blog. It's kind of like writing a subtitle for your book, only it's going to probably last longer, unfortunately. So the tagline, and my tagline is extremely simple: practical advice to help build better books. So it's not that many words, but it took me hours to do it. What you want to do is encapsulate there what it is that your readers are coming to this site for. Why would they bother coming? In this tagline, I tell them that you come because you're going to get practical advice to help you make better books, period. So that's actually pretty important. Now, we talked about foundation posts. I also want to talk a little bit about blog marketing, because how do you get those people? Mm-hmm. And this is a big subject, too big for this talk. But I wanted to make the point that all visitors come to your blog in one of three ways. Either they're searching for a topic, and your blog comes up as a good resource to answer that question, or they type your actual domain name into the bar, like I'm typing thebookdesigner.com and hit enter, or they come by a link on somebody else's site. So that's the part I want you to think about, those links. What would cause a person to link to your site? Why would they want to send their readers to you? And why do people do that? And the reason they do that, and it's a really good practice to link to people's sites, is because they consider that you have something important to say, or you're going to clarify. Like in this talk, I linked to Michael Hyatt's site. Now, I don't own that site. Any advantage from people going there is going to accrue to Michael Hyatt, not me. But I know that is the best resource I know to answer that specific question: how to set up a WordPress blog in 15 minutes. There's the guy with the answer. That's why people link to me. If you're wondering what font to use in your book, I guarantee you 99 out of 100 people are going to link to my site because I've written about them. And they want to provide that resource, that answer to their readers. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. I'm not an expert in setting up WordPress blogs, but Michael is, so I just link to him. So the links that we can acquire from other people by being an authoritative resource, an engaging resource, an entertaining, trustworthy, and likable resource, those links represent the future of your blog. And if you can find a way, look, if you write a guest article for somebody, you can link back to your blog. If you publish something that has your biography on the bottom with a link back to your blog, that's a link. If you can get other people to link to you because you're authoritative, likable, and trustworthy, that's great. So over time, let's say the first 6 months of your blog, you're going to be working on building up these links coming back to your blog. And that's by thinking about the needs of your readers and answering them in an entertaining and authoritative way.
And that kind of is it's a bottom line here on that, because it all ties into, what you say, certainly what Joan Stewart says, and who will also be at the extravaganza, but also the expertise need, because your blog shouts out expertise of whatever you are pushing out. And it's the reinforcement of what you're trying to do. And I think, Joel, what happens here is that the impatient factor comes into play. And we in our instant replay environment, we want it all right now, instant satisfaction, is that we need to understand it takes time.
You can be an overnight sensation if you put in enough work beforehand.
Oh, years ago, I had a book that was turned down by every major. So when I only published with New York, every major publisher, 28. I saved them for a while, and I finally got rid of all of them. But they rejections. And I finally went with a very small, dinky press. Well, that little, and I learned how to do the publicity and got behind it. And that silly thing went from everything. It wasn't silly. It was major. And it was a pioneering work on how and why women undermine other women. That went from everywhere from the Wall Street Journal to the National Enquirer, from everywhere from CNN to the local news, to even a 4-page spread in People magazine as one of its cover stories. And I all learned how to pitch that. And someone came back to me, and this big speaking bureau says, and they said, "Oh, Judith, I see you're finally an overnight success." Do you know how many frickin' years it took to put that together?
Yeah. You too could be an overnight success.
Yeah, you too can be an overnight success.
Yeah.
But it takes work. And that's what Joel's saying. This is not. So those of you who are saying, but I don't have any followers. Well, have you, what are you doing to set it up? What are you selling from your expertise?
Go find them.
You have to go find them. Now we have to go out and search them. You've got to invite people in. Give them a reason to come.
Other bloggers have those readers. So they've already done what you're trying to do successfully. Maybe you should spend some time seeing what they do and how they do it. Sign up for everything they do. Pay attention to their posts. See how they relate to their readers. Start an email opt-in. And I should have mentioned that 30 minutes ago, but when you do set up your site, you're definitely going to want to get an account with a mailing service provider, and that might be somebody like MailChimp, who I use, or Aweber, who I also use. There are a lot of them out there. And you're going to want to have an email opt-in on your blog from day one. Now, let's face it, you're not going to have any visitors on day one except you. We both know that. But, on day 2, somebody might drop by. On day 10, you're finished setting it up, you're doing something else, but people might start trickling in, and you want to have an opportunity to know who those people are and engage with them so you have ways to help them and their search even better by knowing who they are and knowing what their concerns are. So we can't go into that whole subject now, but you should be thinking about ways that you can interest people in signing up to be on your email list or to get your blog updates, because subscribers are infinitely more valuable to you and your future as an author than just readers. And readers are really important. So
and I have to tell you, Joel, it is stunning to me how so many authors are reluctant, and reluctant is the right word, reluctant to ask for names and emails when they're in front of people and in person and in signings, as well as from their website.
Yeah, interesting. Well, that's something to get over. That would be my estimation.
That's right. Get over it.
If you're taking the time and trouble to do this blogging thing, and if you're a nonfiction author, I just can't encourage you enough. I really think at this point it's almost required. But if you're a nonfiction author hoping to spread your expertise, interest more people in your work, help educate more people like Judith and I do, whatever it is, you have to start to understand how the mechanics of this online marketing thing works. And this is going to work to your benefit. If I offer you something like a 24-page guide on independent publishing that I slaved over and highly designed with tons of resource links and really information that's going to help you as a new author, and I offer to give that to you for nothing, don't you think that's going to help anyone who says, yeah, I need that information, and gives me their email address? In exchange, I give them that 24-page PDF. Listen, I get people writing to me every day telling me how much that helped them. So what's the downside? I don't see any downside. This is a definite win-win for both parties.
It's a win-win-win. And, my opt-in for my website on the Book Shepherd is, I think it's 24 or 26 pages. I don't know, whatever, PDF, but it's the publishing must-haves. It's all the front matter stuff. Okay, this is how you go get your ISBNs. This is how you do your LCCN. This is how you do the CPI block. This is how you do the copyright page, and full examples and those links to go to. That's invaluable for anybody who's starting this process.
It's a fantastic resource. And if you try to figure that stuff out yourself, how long is that going to take you? I mean, Judith has published so many books. She's been in this business, a long time, and she's gathered all this information together for you. I mean, that's a tremendous benefit to any author. And all you have to do is put your email address in, click the button, and it lands in your lap. I think that's fantastic.
Snag it. Yeah, it's naked. And with that, Joel, we're going to have to wrap up. So we will see you in just a few weeks in Denver at the AuthorU Extravaganza. Everyone go to AuthorU-Extravaganza.org and get registered. There's still a few slots left. We would love to have you in Denver in September. And Joel, we'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each week, a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take you, the author, to the next level. You'll learn tips and secrets on how to create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve book publishing success by making one very simple change in your book's journey. How to avoid the publishing predators. How to create an author and book platform that rocks. Learn how to make a living with your words and your books. Learn how to publish a book that has no regrets, and so much more. For more information, check out AuthorU.org, where authors who want to be seriously successful go. And Judith's website, thebookshepherd.com. Then join us again here next week for more. It's Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific,